The old ship's metal walls creaked as it drifted through the darkness of space. Captain Tom Reed sat in his worn leather chair on the bridge of the Horizon Seeker, staring at the strange message that kept flashing on his screen. For the past 3 days, his ship's computers had been picking up weird signals that didn't make any sense. At first, he thought it was just space junk interfering with their systems. That happened a lot in this part of space. But these signals were different. "Captain, you need to see this," called Maria Torres, his chief engineer. Her voice had that excited tone she only got when she found something really important. Reed pushed himself out of his chair and floated through the low-gravity environment to her workstation. Maria's fingers flew across her keyboard as she pulled up several windows of data. "Look at these patterns," she said, pointing to a series of repeating numbers. "They're not random. They're old Earth code. Really old. I'm talking pre-space age old." Reed leaned closer, his gray eyes narrowing as he studied the screen. In all his years of deep space salvage, he'd never seen anything like this. "Can you decode it?" "Already working on it," Maria said, brushing her dark hair away from her face. "But that's not even the weird part. These signals, they're coming from somewhere ahead of us. Way ahead of us. Like beyond the mapped systems ahead of us." The bridge fell quiet except for the constant hum of the ship's engines. Reed felt a familiar tingle in his spine, the same feeling he got right before finding something valuable. In the salvage business, instincts like that often meant the difference between striking it rich and going home empty-handed. "How long until you can crack it?" he asked. Maria shrugged. "Give me a few hours. Whatever this is, someone went to a lot of trouble to hide it." Reed nodded and pushed off back to his chair. He looked around his bridge. Small but efficient, just like his 5-person crew. The Horizon Seeker wasn't pretty, but she was good at her job. They made their living finding and selling space junk, old tech, and anything else of value they could get their hands on. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. The next few hours passed slowly. Reed tried to focus on their current job, salvaging parts from an abandoned mining operation, but his mind kept drifting back to the strange signal. In 2457, most people thought they'd found everything there was to find in this part of space. The human colonies had spread out across dozens of star systems, sharing the space with 3 other alien civilizations they'd met along the way. It wasn't always peaceful, but they made it work. "Got it." Maria's excited shout broke through his thoughts. Reed wasn't the only one who came running. The rest of the crew dropped what they were doing and gathered around her station. "Their coordinates," Maria explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "But that's not all. There's a message with them. Well, you should probably read it yourself." Reed leaned forward as Maria pulled up the decoded text on her screen. The message was simple, but it made his heart beat faster. "To those who find this, the Guardian waits. Humanity's shield sleeps until needed. Follow these coordinates only if you're ready for the truth." "The Guardian?" Bob, their security officer, asked. "Isn't that just an old story? Something they made up to make kids feel safer during the First War?" Reed had heard the stories too. Everyone had. The legend said that during humanity's first interstellar war, Earth's best scientists and engineers had built something in secret, a defensive system so powerful it could protect all of human space, but no one had ever found any proof it existed. After the war ended, the story became just another space tale, something salvagers talked about during long trips between jobs. "These coordinates are real, though," Maria said. "They point to a specific location in unexplored space, about 2 weeks' travel from here." Reed stood quiet for a moment, thinking. They had a job to finish here, and their fuel tanks were only half full. Following unknown coordinates into unexplored space was exactly the kind of thing that got salvage crews killed. But if there was even a small chance the Guardian was real, "What do you think, Captain?" James, their pilot, asked. Reed could see the same excitement in his eyes that he felt in his own chest. Before Reed could answer, The ship's warning system started blaring. Red lights flashed across the bridge as their radar picked up multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. 3 ships, Bob reported, checking his security screens. Big ones, moving fast. He paused, his face going pale. "Captain, they're Dominion ships." Everyone on the bridge tensed. The Stellar Dominion was the newest alien civilization humans had met, and they weren't friendly. They saw humans as weak, primitive, barely worth noticing except as targets. They hadn't started a war yet, but everyone knew it was just a matter of time. "They're scanning us," Maria reported, her fingers dancing across her keyboard. "I'm trying to hide the signal data, but..." "Too late," Bob cut in. "They're heading straight for us." Reed made his decision. "James, plot a course for those coordinates. Maria, send everything you decoded to my private server, then wipe your system. Bob, get our weapons online. Not that they'll do much good against Dominion ships, but maybe we can slow them down." "You want to run?" Bob asked, though he was already powering up their defensive systems. "We want to lead them away from here," Reed corrected him. "If the Guardian is real, if there's even a chance, we can't let the Dominion find it first." The crew moved fast, each person knowing their job. The Horizon Seeker might not have been the newest or prettiest ship in space, but she was quick and her crew knew how to handle her. Within minutes, they were accelerating away from the salvage zone, their engines pushed to maximum power. "Dominion ships are following," Bob reported. "They're gaining." "Of course they are," Reed muttered. "Their ships cost more than we'll make in 10 lifetimes. He keyed on the ship's intercom. "Listen up, everyone. We've got a choice to make. Those coordinates might lead to nothing. Probably lead to nothing. But if there's even a small chance they're real, we can't let the Dominion get there first. So we're going to run. And we're going to be clever about it. And we're going to find out if the greatest legend in human space is actually true." He looked around at his crew, people he'd worked with for years, people he trusted with his life. They all looked back at him with determination in their eyes. They knew the odds weren't good. Dominion ships were bigger, faster, and more powerful than their old salvage vessel. But humans had survived this long in space by being sneaky and resourceful. "James," Reed called to his pilot, "plot us a course through the Thorson debris field. Let's see how those fancy Dominion ships handle a little obstacle course." As the Horizon Seeker changed course, heading for a massive field of space junk and broken ships, Reed couldn't help but smile. If the Guardian was real, if they actually found it, well, that would change everything. And if it wasn't real, they'd still give the Dominion a chase they'd never forget. The ship's engines hummed louder as they accelerated, pushing deeper into space, carrying with them a secret that had waited hundreds of years to be found. Behind them, the Dominion ships followed, their massive forms cutting through space like predators chasing prey. But they didn't understand what they were really chasing. Not yet. They thought they were just hunting down another weak human ship. They were about to learn that sometimes the best secrets hide in the most ordinary places, and that legends, even the oldest ones, sometimes turn out to be true. The Horizon Seeker shuddered as another piece of space debris scraped against its hull. Inside the bridge, warning lights flashed as James guided the ship through the dangerous maze of broken ships and twisted metal. The Thorson debris field stretched out before them like a graveyard of forgotten vessels, each piece telling its own story of disaster or abandonment. "How are our friends doing back there?" Reed asked, gripping his chair as the ship made another sharp turn. Bob checked his screens. "2 of the Dominion ships are still with us. The third one hit something big. They're falling behind." He managed a small smile. "Turns out their fancy ships don't handle tight spaces very well." Reed nodded, but he knew they weren't safe yet. The Horizon Seeker was built for this kind of work, picking through debris fields, squeezing through tight spaces. But they couldn't keep this up forever. Their fuel was running low, and the constant maneuvering was putting stress on their engines. Maria's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Captain, I need you in the engine room. There's something you should see." Reed found her buried deep in the ship's computer core, surrounded by holographic displays showing lines of code. She didn't look up as he floated in. "I've been studying more of that old transmission," she said. "It's not just coordinates. There's more, a lot more." She pulled up a new screen, showing what looked like technical diagrams. These were hidden deeper in the code. They're designs, Captain. Parts of them, anyway. And they're incredible. Reed looked at the diagrams, trying to make sense of them. "What am I looking at?" "If I'm reading this right, it's part of the Guardian's defensive systems. The technology, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's way beyond anything we have now, maybe even beyond what the Dominion has." She paused, her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, if this is real, if the Guardian actually exists, it's not just some old defense platform. It's something completely different." Before Reed could respond, the ship rocked violently. Bob's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got problems. One of the Dominion ships just fired some kind of energy pulse. Our rear shields are down." Reed grabbed a handrail to steady himself. "James, get us deeper into the debris field. Maria, I need you back on the engines. Keep them running no matter what." As Reed rushed back to the bridge, he could feel his ship struggling. The Horizon Seeker was tough, but she wasn't built for combat. They needed something else, some other way out. "There," James pointed at his navigation screen. "About 20,000 kilometers ahead. There's a gas cloud. If we can reach it, maybe we can lose them in there." "A gas cloud." Bob looked worried. "That'll mess with our sensors. We'll be flying blind." "They'll be flying blind too," Reed said. "Do it, James." The Horizon Seeker changed course, heading for the massive purple-tinged cloud. Behind them, the Dominion ships fired again, but this time the shots went wide, destroying chunks of debris instead of hitting their target. As they entered the gas cloud, their sensors started going crazy. Static filled their communications, and their navigation systems became unreliable. The view outside their windows turned into a swirling purple fog. "Kill all external lights," Reed ordered. "Minimal power to engines. Let's drift for a bit, see if they follow us in." The crew waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. Finally, Bob spoke up. "I'm picking up some distorted readings. I think they're staying at the edge of the cloud. They're not following us in." Reed allowed himself a small smile. The Dominion ships were powerful, but their commanders were cautious. They wouldn't risk their expensive vessels in a dangerous gas cloud just to chase down one small salvage ship. "Maria," Reed called over the comm. "How are the engines?" "They need a break," she replied. "That last chase pushed them pretty hard. But I've got something else. While we're stuck here, I managed to decode more of that transmission. Captain, you really need to see this." This time, Maria brought the information to the bridge. She pulled up a series of images on the main screen. Old photographs and videos from Earth's first interstellar war. They showed people working on something massive, something being built in secret. "These were embedded in the transmission too," Maria explained. "They're records from the Guardian project. Look at the dates. These are from right before the war ended, right before the Guardian disappeared." The crew gathered around, watching as the images played across their screen. They showed glimpses of the Guardian itself, a station bigger than anything humanity had built before or since, filled with technology that shouldn't have been possible at that time. "But why hide it?" James asked. "If we had something this powerful, why not use it to end the war?" "Maybe that's not what it was for," Maria said quietly. "Look at this." She pulled up another file, this one containing text. It's part of a message from the project leader. It says, "The Guardian was never meant to be a weapon. It's a shield. Yes, but more than that. It's a promise. A promise that humanity will always have a future, no matter what comes. But it must wait. Wait until we're ready to understand what it really is. Reed stared at the words, feeling their weight. And now, over 100 years later, we might be the ones to find it. He looked at his crew. If we survive long enough to reach those coordinates. The ship's sensors beeped, drawing their attention. The Dominion ships are moving away, Bob reported. I think they're giving up the chase. For now, anyway. Good, Reed said. James, take us deeper into the cloud, nice and slow. We'll wait here for a while, make sure they're really gone. Then we'll make our run for those coordinates. He turned to Maria. In the meantime, see what else you can pull from that transmission. I want to know everything we can about what we're heading into. As the Horizon Seeker drifted through the purple haze, its crew worked in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They had survived the chase, but they all knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would be looking for them now, and they had a long journey ahead through unexplored space. But they also had something else. Hope. Hope that the legends were true, that the Guardian was real. And if it was, if they could find it. Well, maybe those old project leaders were right. Maybe now was finally the time for humanity to understand what their ancestors had built, hidden away in the darkness of space, waiting for the right moment to change everything. 2 weeks of careful travel through unexplored space had taken their toll on the Horizon Seeker and her crew. The ship's engines grumbled more than usual, and their food supplies were running low. But none of that mattered now, because there it was, right in front of them, exactly where the coordinates said it would be. That's impossible, Bob whispered, staring at the massive structure floating in the darkness of space. It's bigger than a space station. The Guardian hung silent against the backdrop of stars, its dark metal surface absorbing nearly all light. It was shaped like a giant wheel with spokes running to a central hub, but parts of it seemed to shift and change even as they watched, as if it couldn't quite decide on its final form. No wonder they had to hide it, James said from his pilot's seat. Something this big. Everyone would have wanted it. Reed studied the readings on his screen. No power signatures, no signs of active systems. If there's anything still working in there, it's running on minimal power. He turned to Maria. Can you get any more detailed scans? Maria shook her head. There's some kind of interference, like it's blocking our scans, even though it looks powered down. She paused, checking another reading. But I am picking up an open docking port. We could go inside. Reed considered their options. They had found the Guardian, but now what? The massive structure looked dead, and they had no idea how to wake it up, or if they even should. But they had come too far to turn back now. Suit up, he ordered. We're going in. James, take us to that docking port, nice and slow. Bob, keep watching our backs. The Dominion lost us 2 weeks ago, but I don't want any surprises. 20 minutes later, Reed led Maria and Bob through the Guardian's docking port, while James stayed behind to watch the ship. The moment they stepped inside, lights flickered to life along the corridors, responding to their presence. Motion sensors still work, Maria said, checking her hand scanner. And there's air. The life support systems are still running, just on very low power. They moved deeper into the station, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Everything was clean. No dust, no signs of age or decay. It was as if the Guardian had been waiting, preserved in perfect condition, for someone to find it. Look at these walls, Bob said, running his hand along the smooth surface. The metal, it's changing color where I touch it, like it's reacting to body heat. Maria scanned the wall. It's not just metal. The whole station seems to be made of some kind of smart material. It can change its properties based on what's needed. She looked around in wonder. This is way beyond anything we have now. This shouldn't have been possible 100 years ago. They found their way to what looked like a control room. As they entered, more lights came on, and holographic displays sprang to life around them. Maria immediately went to work on the nearest console. The system's waking up, she reported. but slowly, like it's being careful. There's something else too. I'm picking up a massive power source at the center of the station. It's just starting to activate. That's when they heard it. A deep humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls around them shifted, patterns of light running through the metal like circuits coming to life. "Welcome, humans," a voice said, filling the room. It wasn't exactly male or female, but it was calm and clear. "I am Sentinel, the Guardian's control system. You have found us sooner than expected." Reed stepped forward. "You've been waiting for us." Waiting, watching, learning. Holographic images appeared around them, showing scenes from human history. Their spread across the stars, their encounters with alien races, their struggles and achievements. We needed to be sure humanity was ready. Before Reed could ask what they needed to be ready for, Bob's voice cut through the conversation. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple Dominion ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel." The holographic displays change, showing the space around the station. 6 Dominion warships were approaching, their weapons already powering up. "They must have followed our trail," Maria said. "Maybe picked up our engine signature." Reed's mind raced. They had found the Guardian, but it was still waking up. They had no weapons, no defenses, and nowhere to run. "Sentinel," he said quickly, "the Dominion ships, they're hostile. They'll try to take the station." "Yes," Sentinel replied calmly. "This is an expected scenario. The Dominion's arrival presents an opportunity to demonstrate why the Guardian was created." The humming sound grew louder, and the metal walls around them seemed to pulse with energy. "Demonstration?" Reed asked. "The Guardian is not a weapon," Sentinel explained as more systems came online around them. "It is an adaptive defense system, designed to protect without destroying. Watch and understand why your ancestors chose to hide us until now." The Dominion ships were closing fast, their weapons charging. The first ship fired, sending a powerful energy beam straight at the Guardian. But before the beam could hit, the space around the station seemed to bend and twist. The energy weapon dispersed harmlessly, its power absorbed into nothing. "Impossible," Bob exclaimed, watching the sensor readings. "They hit us with enough firepower to crack a planet, and it just disappeared." "Not disappeared," Sentinel corrected. "Transformed. The Guardian does not simply defend. It learns, adapts, and evolves. Every attack makes it stronger, adds to its understanding." The station hummed with power now, its walls flowing like liquid metal. "Observe." The Dominion ships fired again, this time all at once. But their weapons had no more effect than before. Instead, the energy from their attacks seemed to flow through the Guardian's structure, making it glow with borrowed power. "Let us show them a better way," Sentinel said. The space around the Dominion ships suddenly lit up with thousands of tiny points of light. Their weapons went dead, their engines stopped, and their ships hung motionless in space. "What did you do to them?" Reed asked, watching in amazement. "Taught them the futility of their attack," Sentinel replied. "Their weapons and engines will restart shortly. But now they understand. They cannot harm us, and we choose not to harm them. This is the Guardian's true purpose, not to destroy, but to protect. Not to win wars, but to prevent them." As they watched, the Dominion ship systems came back online. For a moment, they hung in space, as if considering another attack. Then, one by one, they turned and disappeared back into faster-than-light travel. "They're running," Bob said, disbelief in his voice. "No," Sentinel corrected. "They are learning. And now, humans, it is time for you to learn as well. Your ancestors built us not just as a shield, but as a gift to their descendants. The Guardian is more than a station. It is the key to understanding technologies your people have only dreamed of, technologies that could change everything." Reed looked around at the living metal walls, the impossible defenses, the power to turn aside planet-killing weapons without firing a shot. "Why now?" he asked. Why show yourself to us? Because you were curious enough to look, Sentinel replied. Brave enough to come this far, and wise enough to understand that the greatest power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. Now shall we begin your education? Reed looked at his crew, saw the same wonder and excitement in their eyes that he felt. They had found more than just an old legend. They had found humanity's next great step forward, and it had been waiting for them all along, hidden in the darkness of space, ready to change everything. The news of the Guardian's discovery spread across human space faster than any faster-than-light ship could travel. Within days, the once quiet region of unexplored space had become the center of attention for every species in known space. Ships from all three human-allied alien civilizations arrived to witness the legend that had suddenly become real. Inside the Guardian, Reed and his crew watched as Sentinel showed them wonders they had never imagined possible. The control room had become their classroom, and the lessons were beyond anything they could have expected. Your ancestors understood something important, Sentinel explained as it showed them a holographic display of the station's inner workings. The best technology doesn't just solve problems, it prevents them from happening in the first place. Maria stood transfixed as she watched the station's smart metal reshape itself, forming new structures and then dissolving them back into its base form. It's like it's alive, she said. The whole station is one big living machine. Close, Sentinel replied, but not quite correct. The Guardian is not alive in the way you understand life. We are evolving, constantly changing, learning, adapting. Every new experience adds to what we are. Bob, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. They're back. Everyone turned to look at the sensor displays. A massive fleet of Dominion ships had just appeared at the edge of the system. Not just warships this time, but diplomatic vessels too. 57 ships, Bob reported, including their flagship. Looks like we got their attention. Reed felt a moment of worry, but Sentinel seemed unconcerned. They have come to learn, it said, as have others. Look, more ships were appearing. Vessels from the three alien races that had allied with humanity. The space around the Guardian was becoming crowded with ships from 5 different species, all drawn by the station's power and mystery. We're receiving transmission requests from all of them, James reported from the Horizon Seeker, which was still docked with the station. Everyone wants to talk. Reed looked at Sentinel's holographic interface. What do we do? We're just salvage crew. We're not diplomats. You are more than that now, Sentinel replied. You are the ones who found us, who proved worthy of awakening us. It is fitting that you help guide what comes next. The station hummed with power as it added, let us welcome them all. The Guardian's docking bays opened, offering space for ships from each species to dock. As the diplomatic parties came aboard, the station's corridors shifted and changed, creating meeting spaces that perfectly suited each species' needs. The first to arrive were the Dominion representatives. Their leader, Admiral Thresh, was a tall, imposing figure who carried himself with rigid pride. But there was uncertainty in his eyes as he looked around at the living metal walls. Your technology, he said to Reed, trying to maintain his usual superior tone but failing. It should not be possible. It's not our technology, Reed replied. It belongs to humanity's past, and now, maybe, to everyone's future. Sentinel's voice filled the room. The Guardian was built by humans, yes, but its purpose extends to all species. Watch. The walls around them transformed, becoming a vast display of stars and planets. In the center, holographic representations of ships from all 5 species appeared. Each of you, Sentinel explained, has developed technology in your own way. The Dominion focused on weapons and defenses. Others chose different paths. But all of you have been limited by working alone. The holograms began to merge and change. Together, combining your knowledge with what the Guardian can teach, you could achieve so much more. The display showed impossible things. ships that could heal themselves like living things, energy shields that could protect entire solar systems, ways to travel between stars that made their fastest ships look slow. "This is why we waited," Sentinel continued. "Not just for humanity to be ready, but for all of you to be ready. To understand that the greatest achievements come not from conquest, but from cooperation." The other diplomatic parties arrived. The peaceful Varian scientists, the practical Ming traders, the curious Eltair explorers. Each brought their own questions, their own fears, their own hopes. Maria worked with the alien engineers, showing them what she had learned about the Guardian systems. Bob talked with their security teams, explaining how the station's defenses worked without destroying. James helped coordinate the growing fleet of ships around the station, making sure everyone had safe space to maneuver. And Reed found himself in the middle of it all, working with Sentinel to help everyone understand what the Guardian truly was. Not a weapon to be feared or fought over, but a teacher offering knowledge that could change everything. "Your ship survived quite a chase to find us," Sentinel said to Reed during a quiet moment. "Did you ever wonder why those coordinates were hidden in such an old transmission? Why they were found exactly when they were?" Reed had wondered about that. "You planned it. You sent out those coordinates. We have been watching, waiting for the right moment. When we saw your ship, small but resourceful, running from a superior force but choosing cleverness over violence, we knew the time had come. But why us? We're nothing special." "That is where you are wrong," Sentinel replied. "You are exactly what your ancestors hoped humanity would become. Curious enough to look for ancient mysteries, brave enough to face powerful enemies, wise enough to understand that power is not just about strength." The Guardian continued to share its secrets over the next few days. Each revelation led to new questions, new possibilities. The Dominion's admiral gradually lost his arrogant attitude, especially after Sentinel showed how their weapons technology could be modified to protect planets from natural disasters instead of destroying them. The station's smart metal began to appear in small amounts on the ships docked with it, upgrading their systems in ways their builders had never imagined possible. The Horizon Seeker, Reed's old salvage ship, was among the first to receive these improvements. "Consider it a reward," Sentinel told them, "for being the ones to wake us up." As Reed watched his ship's hull slowly transform, becoming stronger and more alive than simple metal had any right to be, he thought about how much had changed in just a few days. They had started out as simple salvage crew chasing a legend. Now they were at the center of what might be the biggest change in human history since the discovery of faster-than-light travel. "Sentinel," he asked, "what happens now?" The Guardian's eye was quiet for a moment before responding. Now we begin the real work. Teaching, learning, growing. Together." The station's walls pulsed with soft light as it added, "Your ancestors built us to protect humanity's future, but they understood something that the Dominion, and many others, had forgotten. The best way to protect the future is to make it better for everyone." 6 months had passed since the Horizon Seeker first discovered the Guardian, and the changes across known space had been greater than anyone could have imagined. Reed stood at the viewing window of his ship, watching as another fleet of vessels gathered around the massive station. But these weren't warships or diplomatic vessels. They were research ships, carrying scientists and engineers from all 5 species, coming together to learn and share knowledge. The Horizon Seeker itself had changed. Its hull now shimmered with the same smart metal as the Guardian, and its systems had been upgraded far beyond their original capabilities. But Reed had kept the old ship's name, and much of its appearance, a reminder of where they had started. "Captain," James called from his pilot's station, "the new students are ready for today's lesson." Reed smiled at that. They weren't just a salvage crew anymore. They had become teachers, helping others understand the Guardian's gifts. Their experience as the first to encounter the station made them uniquely qualified to help others adapt to its incredible technologies. Inside the Guardian, Maria was already working with a mixed group of human and alien engineers. They gathered around a holographic display, showing the station's smart metal technology, watching in amazement as she demonstrated how it could be programmed to serve different purposes. "The key is understanding that it's not just about making things," she explained. "It's about making things that can change and grow as needed." She pressed her hand against a nearby wall, and the metal rippled in response, forming complex patterns that reflected her thoughts. In another section of the station, Bob was working with security teams from various worlds, including several Dominion officers who had once chased them across space. They were learning about the Guardian's defensive systems, not to copy them, but to understand the principles behind them. "Defense doesn't have to mean destruction," Bob told them, repeating what Sentinel had taught him. "Sometimes the best way to stop an attack is to make it pointless." Sentinel's presence filled the station as always, but it had changed too. Interaction with so many different species had caused it to evolve in new ways, developing better understanding of organic life and its complexities. "Your civilizations are learning faster than expected," it told Reed during one of their regular conversations. "The integration of Guardian technology has already prevented 3 potential conflicts and saved 2 colonies from natural disasters." Reed nodded. The changes had been dramatic but largely peaceful. The Dominion, once so eager for war, had found new purpose in helping develop protective systems for vulnerable worlds. The other species had each found their own ways to use the Guardian's teachings, always sharing their discoveries with the others. "There's something I've been wondering," Reed said to Sentinel. "That first chase, when the Dominion ships were after us, you could have stopped them right then, couldn't you? Why let us run all that way?" "Because the journey was important," Sentinel replied. "You needed to prove yourselves, not just to us, but to yourselves. And others needed to see that even a small salvage ship could achieve great things through determination and wisdom." A notification popped up on Reed's display. Another ship was approaching, this one from Earth itself. The new Human Council wanted to see the Guardian firsthand, to understand the gift their ancestors had left them. "They still don't quite believe it," Reed said, watching the Earth ship approach. "That our ancestors built something this advanced, this powerful, and chose to hide it away instead of using it. They built it precisely because they understood the responsibility that comes with such power," Sentinel explained. "They knew humanity needed time to grow, to learn, to make mistakes, and learn from them. And they knew that when the right time came, their descendants would need to share this knowledge, not hoard it." As if to demonstrate this point, the station's walls suddenly came alive with flowing patterns of light. In the main assembly area, representatives from all 5 species watched in wonder as the Guardian displayed new discoveries, ways to clean polluted worlds, to harvest energy from dying stars, to heal diseases that had plagued their peoples for generations. "Every discovery is shared," Sentinel continued. "Every advance benefits all. This is what your ancestors hoped for, not a weapon to win wars, but a tool to make them unnecessary." The Earth ship docked, and Reed went to meet the council members. As they stepped onto the station for the first time, their faces showed the same awe he had felt 6 months ago. The Guardian's living metal welcomed them, adjusting its environment to make them comfortable. "It's even more incredible than the report suggested," one council member said, watching the walls shift and flow around them. "This is just the beginning," Reed told them. "Every day we learn something new. Every day the Guardian shows us more of what's possible." He led them to the main control room, where Sentinel waited to greet Earth's leaders. As they walked, Reed thought about how much had changed. The Horizon Seeker had gone from hunting space junk to helping shape the future of 5 civilizations. His crew had become teachers and diplomats, helping others understand technologies that seemed like magic. And the Guardian itself had become exactly what its builders had hoped, not just a protector, but a guide to a better future. "Your ancestors left you more than just technology," Sentinel told the council members as they gathered in the control room. "They left you hope. Hope that different species could work together. Hope that knowledge could prevent conflict. Hope that the future could be better than the past." The station hummed with power as it displayed its latest gift. Plans for ships that could explore further than any had gone before, powered by technology that all 5 species had helped develop. "This is why we waited," Sentinel said. "Not just for humanity to find us, but for all of you to be ready to work together. To understand that the greatest achievements come not from one species working alone, but from many working as one." Reed looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding the Guardian. Research vessels, diplomatic ships, trading craft, all working together where once they might have fought. The legend they had chased across space had turned out to be more than just a powerful defense system. It was a key to unlocking a future that their ancestors had dreamed of but couldn't achieve alone. "So," he asked Sentinel, "what's our next lesson?" The Guardian's walls pulsed with light as it responded. "That depends on what you're ready to learn. The universe is vast, and there are more legends out there waiting to be found, more mysteries to solve, more chances to grow and change and become something greater than you are now." Reed smiled, thinking of the long chase that had led them here, the risks they had taken, the chances they had seized. They had found more than just an ancient legend. They had found a new beginning. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, he knew, other legends were waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to chase them, and wise enough to understand them. The Guardian would be there to help them find those legends, to unlock new mysteries, to keep pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Because that was what it had been built for, not just to protect humanity's future, but to help create it. One discovery, one lesson, one shared moment of wonder at a time. Admiral Thorne stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dominance, the flagship of the Galactic Empire's 3rd Fleet. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display, showing the unusual energy readings coming from the small blue planet. The Empire had ruled over thousands of alien species for more than 10,000 years. In all that time, they had never seen energy patterns like these. "Tell me again how long these humans have had faster-than-light travel," Thorne asked, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the display. Commander Plex, the fleet's intelligence officer, checked his datapad. "Less than 50 years, Admiral. They were confined to their solar system until then." Thorne's secondary arms twitched in disbelief. "Impossible. No species develops this quickly." The Imperial Dominance and its escort of 5 battlecruisers had been sent to investigate this backwater system after automated sensor buoys detected unusual energy signatures. The Empire had known about humans for centuries, but had classified them as a pre-spaceflight civilization, not worth the effort of formal contact or conquest. That assessment was clearly wrong. "We're receiving a transmission from the approaching vessel," announced the communications officer. "On screen," ordered Thorne. The main display changed to show a human male with short gray hair and a weathered face. He wore a simple dark blue uniform with small silver markings on the collar. "This is Captain Thomas James of the Earth ship Defiance. We welcome the Galactic Empire to Earth space and request your peaceful intentions be confirmed." Thorne noted the polite words were undermined by the fact that this single human vessel had approached his fleet without hesitation. Either these humans were foolish or very confident. "I am Admiral Thorne of the Imperial 3rd Fleet. We are here on a routine survey mission." The lie came easily. "Your world has shown interesting technological development. We wish to establish formal contact." Captain James smiled slightly. "We're happy to escort you to our orbital diplomatic station. However, I must ask that only 2 of your vessels proceed. Our defense protocols limit the number of foreign military ships permitted near Earth." The sheer audacity. Thorne's inner eyelids blinked rapidly in surprise. This human was dictating terms to an Imperial admiral. Before he could respond with the appropriate threat, his science officer interrupted. "Admiral, you need to see these scans of the human vessel," she whispered urgently. Thorne glanced down at the offered datapad and felt a cold sensation spread through his body. The scan showed energy readings that exceeded the capabilities of his own flagship. Impossible. "Very well, Captain James," Thorne replied, masking his concern. "The Imperial dominance, and one escort will follow you. The remainder of my fleet will hold position here." The human nodded. "Thank you, Admiral. Please maintain your current speed and follow our navigation beacon." As the transmission ended, Thorne turned to his officers. "Full analysis of that ship. I want to know everything about their weapons, shields, and propulsion systems." Commander Plex approached. "Sir, preliminary scans indicate their shield technology is like nothing in our database, and their power generation." He hesitated. "It exceeds our flagship by approximately 300%. "That cannot be correct," Thorne hissed. "No newly spacefaring race develops such technology so quickly. They must have stolen it or found ancient technology." "There's no evidence of that, sir. The design architecture appears uniquely human." As they followed the Defiance toward Earth, Thorne studied the human vessel. It was smaller than his flagship, but had an elegant, streamlined design that suggested both speed and power. No excessive ornamentation or intimidating features like Imperial ships often displayed. Its simplicity was almost mocking. In the command center beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, General Diana West watched a holographic display showing the approaching alien fleet. Only the Defiance and a squadron of escort ships were visible to the aliens, while Earth's true defense fleet remained hidden, weapons locked on the Imperial vessels. "Captain James reports the aliens took the bait," her aide reported. "They're following with just 2 ships." Diana nodded. "And their scans. Their technology can detect the Defiance's capabilities, but not our stealth fleet. They seem concerned." "Good," Diana said. 50 years ago, we intercepted their probe and learned about the Empire. We've been preparing ever since. When humans discovered the small Imperial drone cataloging their system, they'd kept it intact enough to extract its data. What they found had changed human history forever. Knowledge of a vast, ancient empire that considered all other species merely resources to exploit or subjects to rule. Humanity had united and advanced with a single purpose: to be ready when the empire eventually came. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological innovation was directed toward survival. Captain James watched the massive Imperial ships following his vessel. The Defiance was humanity's newest warship, but far from their most powerful. It had been specifically designed to impress and intimidate without revealing the full extent of human military technology. "They're scanning us continuously," Captain reported his tactical officer. "Should we raise our countermeasures?" "No," James replied. "Let them see exactly what we want them to see." The Defiance led the Imperial ships to the massive orbital station that served as Earth's diplomatic hub. The station's size and obvious technological sophistication clearly surprised the Imperial officers when they came aboard. In the main conference room, Admiral Thorne and his delegation sat across from Captain James and Earth's diplomatic team. The room featured a large viewport showing Earth below, a deliberate reminder of what humanity was protecting. "Your ship has interesting capabilities," Thorne began. "The Empire maintains technological standards for all spacefaring species. It appears humans may have developed beyond permitted levels." James raised an eyebrow. "Permitted? By whom?" "The Galactic Empire has ruled for 10,000 years, Thorne said coldly. "We ensure stability by regulating dangerous technologies. Your shields and power systems exceed Category 3 limitations, which is unusual for a species that has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel." James smiled. "We're quick learners, Admiral." "Perhaps too quick," Thorne replied. "Imperial protocol requires technological verification of all member species. Your ships and facilities must be inspected to ensure compliance. Earth is not a member of your empire," James pointed out. "We're an independent world." Thorne's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, the Imperial equivalent of a condescending smile. "There are no truly independent worlds, Captain. Only those within the Empire and those who have not yet joined. For your people's safety, compliance is recommended." As the thinly veiled threat hung in the air, James received a subtle notification on his communication device. Earth's hidden defense fleet had detected additional Imperial ships entering the system. "We'll take your request under advisement," James said carefully. "Earth's United Defense Command will need to discuss this matter." The meeting ended with false pleasantries, and as the Imperial delegation returned to their ships, James contacted General West. "They're assessing whether to bring us into the fold or eliminate a potential threat," he reported. "And their decision?" asked Diana. James watched the Imperial ships through the viewport. "I believe they're already gathering their forces. They won't risk leaving humans independent, not with the technology they think we have." "Then it's begun," Diana said quietly. "And they don't even realize they've only seen a fraction of what we can do." James nodded grimly. "The real question now is, do we show them everything and risk full-scale war, or keep our true capabilities hidden and hope for peaceful integration?" As the Imperial ships moved away from the station, Earth's leadership prepared for the decision that would determine humanity's future among the stars. "The Empire is reassessing their approach," he announced. "Our intelligence networks report widespread concern among their leadership. They've never encountered a species that could resist their military might." General Diana West stepped forward. "But we should expect a stronger response. The Empire has ruled for millennia by maintaining their technological superiority. They won't accept a challenge to that position." "What are our options?" asked the President. Diana activated a holographic display showing Earth's full military capabilities. Hundreds of ships, including the advanced Phantom-class vessels that had remained hidden during the battle. "We could launch a preemptive strike," she suggested. "Show them our true strength and force them to negotiate." Admiral Lee shook his head. "The Empire controls thousands of worlds. They can lose thousands of ships and still overwhelm us eventually." "Then what do you propose?" asked Diana. "Diplomacy," Lee replied, "but from a position of strength. We send a delegation to their capital, escorted by our most advanced ships. We show them exactly what we're capable of and offer them a choice: peaceful coexistence or mutual destruction." President Gallo nodded slowly. "Captain James will lead the diplomatic mission. Prepare our finest vessels." The Imperial Palace was in chaos. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy about human activity. Their ships had been spotted near important trade routes and strategic locations, always maintaining a respectful distance, but clearly mapping Imperial territory. In his private chambers, the Emperor received Admiral Thorne. "The humans have announced they're sending a diplomatic delegation," Thorne reported. "They request an audience with you directly." "How unusual," the Emperor mused. "Most species beg for such an honor." "These humans don't beg, Your Eminence. They've also informed us that their delegation will be accompanied by 3 of their vessels." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "They dare bring warships to Nexus Prime." "We've attempted to scan these ships," Thorne continued, his voice growing quieter. "Our sensors, they can barely detect them. Whatever technology they're using, it's beyond our current understanding." For the first time in centuries, the Emperor felt something close to fear. A species that had evolved in harsh conditions, developed technology at an unprecedented rate, and now possessed capabilities that the Empire couldn't match. These humans were either the greatest threat or the greatest opportunity the Empire had faced in millennia. "Prepare for their arrival," he ordered. "I will see these humans for myself." As the human diplomatic vessels approached Nexus Prime, Captain James stood on the bridge of the Resolution, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Unlike the Defiance, which had been designed to impress while concealing its true capabilities, the Resolution hid nothing. Its quantum shield technology, phase shift engines, and gravity manipulation systems were all fully visible to Imperial scanners. "They're scanning us continuously," reported his science officer. James nodded. "Let them see everything." It's time they understood what they're dealing with. The 3 human ships moved into orbit around the Imperial capital, their presence causing a sensation among the planet's inhabitants. Never before had foreign vessels been allowed so close to the seat of imperial power. As James prepared to board the shuttle that would take him to the surface, his communication officer called out, "Captain, we're detecting energy surges from an imperial outpost near Jupiter. They're attacking Earth's outer colonies." James froze. "Confirm that." "Confirmed, sir. It appears to be a rogue imperial faction. They've launched an assault on our settlements in the Jupiter system." James's expression hardened. It seems not everyone in the Empire wants peace. He opened a channel to Earth. "General West, we have a situation. Request permission to show the Empire exactly what happens when someone attacks human colonies." The response came quickly. "Permission granted, Captain. The resolution is authorized for full combat deployment." James turned to his crew. "Prepare the ship for phase shift. We're going to teach the Empire a lesson they won't forget." Marcus moved silently through the dimly lit corridor of the human ship Defiance. As the Empire's top science officer and spy, he had infiltrated many alien vessels before, but never had he felt so uncomfortable. Everything about this ship felt wrong. The technology was too advanced, too elegant for a species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. His specialized suit made him nearly invisible to most detection systems. At least that had been true on every other mission. Here, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Marcus paused at a junction and consulted his scanner. The ship's power core should be 2 levels down. That's where he would find the answers Admiral Thorne needed. "Lost?" asked a calm voice behind him. Marcus froze. Slowly, he turned to face a human in a blue uniform. "Captain James." "Impressive technology," James continued, gesturing at Marcus's stealth suit. "But our sensors detected you the moment you left your shuttle." Marcus deactivated his camouflage. There was no point maintaining the pretense. "Then why allow me to board?" James smiled. "Curiosity. We wanted to see what you were looking for." He gestured toward a nearby door. "Come with me." In the depths of the Imperial flagship, Admiral Thorne faced the holographic images of the 12 members of the Imperial Council. Their giant translucent heads floated above the conference table, expressions ranging from concern to outright anger. These humans possess technology that should be impossible for their development stage, Thorne explained. Their shields and weapons systems exceed our own. "Impossible," declared Counselor Vex, the ancient representative of the core worlds. "No species develops such technology without outside help. They must have found ancient artifacts or stolen from advanced civilizations." "My science team found no evidence of that," Thorne replied. "All indications suggest these advancements are their own." The Emperor's representative, a thin being with elongated features, leaned forward. "The question is not how they acquired this technology, but what threat they pose to Imperial stability." Thorne straightened his posture. "Based on our scans and intelligence, I believe they pose a significant threat. Their homeworld shows signs of extensive defensive capabilities. More concerning still, we've detected evidence of human colonies in nearby systems, all heavily fortified." "Your recommendation?" asked the Emperor's representative. "A full battle group to assess their true military capacity," Thorne said without hesitation. "We must determine if they are merely defensive or harbor expansionist intentions." The council members exchanged glances before the Emperor's representative spoke again. "Very well. The 7th Battle Group will divert to your position. Determine the full extent of human capabilities and their threat level. If necessary, you are authorized to implement Protocol 16. Thorne's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, the only sign of his surprise. Protocol 16 was planetary subjugation, the forceful integration of a species into the Empire. "Understood," he replied. "For the glory of the Empire." Captain James led Marcus to what appeared to be an engine room. But unlike any engine room Marcus had ever seen, this one was almost empty. In the center floated a small glowing blue sphere contained within a transparent cube. "Your power core?" Marcus asked, unable to hide his disbelief. One of our older models, James replied. It powers all non-essential systems. Marcus's scanner almost overloaded as he pointed it at the sphere. This older model produces more energy than our Imperial battlecruisers. James shrugged. Necessity drives innovation. Earth is resource-poor compared to many worlds. We had to become efficient. Marcus studied the human captain. You're showing me this intentionally. Why? Because you're going to report back to your admiral, and I want you to tell him exactly what you saw. And what is it that I'm seeing? Marcus asked carefully. A glimpse, James said. Just a glimpse of what humans are capable of. General Diana West stood before the United Defense Command, 17 men and women representing Earth's combined military forces. The atmosphere in the underground chamber was tense. The Imperial spy has been allowed limited access to the Defiance as planned, she reported. Captain James is feeding him carefully selected information. Admiral Lee, commander of Earth's Pacific Fleet, leaned forward. And are they taking the bait? Completely, Diana confirmed. Our monitoring of their communications indicates they're calling for reinforcements. A battle group is being dispatched to assess us. Then we must decide now, said President Gallo, his voice grave. Do we reveal our full military capability and risk immediate conflict, or continue the deception? Diana activated the central holographic display, showing the position of Earth's hidden fleets. Our stealth technology remains undetected. We have the advantage of surprise. However, a full revelation might trigger a larger Imperial response than we can handle. What about our phase shift technology? Asked Admiral Lee. Do they suspect we have it? No, Diana replied. Their spy has seen nothing beyond conventional FTL drives, albeit more advanced than they expected. They have no idea we can shift entire fleets between dimensions. President Gallo stood, his decision made. We show them enough to make them cautious, but not enough to make them desperate. Deploy Defense Plan Delta. Second-tier vessels only. Marcus returned to the Imperial flagship, his mind racing with what he had seen. Admiral Thorne listened to his report with growing concern. You're certain this was an older model power system? Thorne demanded. The human captain had no reason to lie about that, Marcus replied. Their technological advancement is genuine and self-developed. And, sir, I believe they were showing me exactly what they wanted me to see. Thorne paced the command deck. They're playing games with us. There's something else, Marcus added. While accessing their computer systems, I found references to their home planet. Earth is classified as a death world by galactic standards. Higher gravity, higher radiation, more extreme weather, and more aggressive life forms than most inhabited planets. What are you suggesting? That humans evolved in conditions that would kill most species in the Empire. Their entire history has been one of adaptation to harsh conditions and competition. It explains their rapid technological development. Thorne stopped pacing. The 7th Battle Group will arrive in 2 standard days. Then we'll see just how advanced these humans really are. On the Defiance, Captain James reported to General West via secure channel. The spy left with exactly the information we wanted him to have, he confirmed. Our sources within their fleet indicate they're preparing for a major exercise to test our capabilities. Diana nodded. The Imperial Battle Group will arrive soon. President Gallo has authorized the deployment of our Aegis-class vessels. Not the Phantom Fleet, James asked, surprised. Not yet. We need to see how they respond to a moderate show of force first. James looked troubled. These Imperials have conquered thousands of worlds, General. They won't stop at a show of force. Exactly, Diana replied. Which is why we need to carefully manage how much of our hand we show. Too little, and they'll think us easy prey. Too much, and they might bring their full might against us. And if they attack regardless. Diana's expression hardened. Then they'll learn why it was a mistake to threaten a species that evolved on a world that tries to kill them every day. James nodded. As he ended the transmission, he gazed out at the stars, where somewhere an Imperial battle group was heading toward Earth. The coming days would determine whether humanity would find a place in the galactic community through peace or war. But one thing was certain. The Empire had gravely underestimated what humans were capable of. They were about to learn their mistake. The Imperial 7th Battle Group emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 27 warships, from massive dreadnoughts to nimble destroyers, arranged in perfect formation. It was a fleet that had crushed planetary defenses across hundreds of worlds. On the command deck of the lead dreadnought, Imperial Verdict, Admiral Thorne stood beside Fleet Commander Dax, the battle group's leader. "These humans have only a handful of ships that we've detected," Dax said confidently. "This display of force should bring them to their senses quickly." Thorne wasn't so sure. "Don't underestimate them, Commander. There's something unusual about these humans. All species bow before sufficient Imperial might," Dax replied. "Now, let's see what these humans are truly capable of." The emergency alarms sounded throughout Earth's defense headquarters. General Diana West rushed into the command center where tactical displays showed the newly arrived Imperial fleet. 27 vessels, reported her aide, including 3 dreadnoughts. President Gallo entered the room, his face grim. "They're not wasting any time. We're receiving a transmission from the Imperial fleet," announced the communications officer. The main screen activated, showing Fleet Commander Dax, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he spoke. "People of Earth, the Galactic Empire welcomes you to the greater community of civilized species. To assess your readiness for formal membership, we request a joint military exercise with your defense forces." Diana and the President exchanged glances. This transparent trap was exactly what they had anticipated. "Deploy the Aegis fleet," ordered the President. "Captain James will command." The Defiance led a formation of 15 human vessels toward the waiting Imperial fleet. These were Earth's Aegis-class ships, powerful by most standards, but deliberately designed to appear less advanced than they actually were. Captain James addressed the commanders of the human fleet. "Remember, we show them our defensive capabilities, not our offensive ones. Make them respect us, not fear us." The human ships formed a wedge formation as they approached the much larger Imperial fleet. The size difference was dramatic. The smallest Imperial destroyer was larger than the Defiance, and the Imperial dreadnoughts were the size of small cities. Fleet Commander Dax's voice came through the communications channel. "Captain James, your ships will engage in a simulated combat exercise with our vessels. This will help us understand your tactical capabilities and technological level." "We're ready, Commander," James replied calmly. "Although I notice your fleet seems positioned for actual combat rather than an exercise." Dax's expression didn't change. "A precaution only. The exercise begins in 1 standard hour." As the transmission ended, James turned to his tactical officer. "They'll attack as soon as we're in range of their main weapons. Be ready." Admiral Thorne watched from the bridge of his flagship as the human vessels approached. Something wasn't right. The humans were bringing too few ships, and they were advancing too confidently. "Commander Dax," he said quietly, "I recommend caution. These humans may have hidden capabilities." Dax dismissed the concern with a gesture of his secondary arm. "Our scans show their technology is impressive, but not beyond our comprehension. Their ships have strong shields but limited weapons. They clearly prioritize defense over offense, the mark of a species that fears conflict. Or the mark of a species confident enough that they don't need to show their teeth," Thorne replied. The Imperial fleet suddenly broke formation, its ships spreading out to surround the human vessels. Their weapons systems activated, energy signatures spiking across the Imperial line. "They're powering weapons," reported the Defiance's tactical officer. "No warning." James nodded calmly. "As expected. Defensive protocols only. No offensive action without my direct order." The space between the fleets lit up as Imperial energy weapons fired simultaneously, a barrage that would have destroyed most planetary defense fleets instantly. But the human ships didn't explode. Their shields glowed bright blue, as they absorbed the massive energy attack, bending and rippling but holding firm. On the Imperial flagship, Dax stared in disbelief. Impossible. No shields could withstand that barrage. "Fire again," he ordered. "All weapons, maximum power." The second Imperial attack was even more powerful than the first. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and graviton pulses, the complete arsenal of Imperial weaponry, converged on the human fleet. Again, the human shields held. Some ships showed fluctuations in their shield patterns, but none fell. Inside the Defiance, the bridge remained calm despite the massive attack. Crew members monitored their stations as if this were a routine drill. "Shield efficiency at 87% and holding," reported the engineering officer. "We could do this all day, Captain." James nodded. "Let's give them something to think about. Activate defensive countermeasures. Protocols 3 and 4 only." The human ship's shields changed color, shifting from blue to a deep purple. Then, as the next wave of Imperial weapons fire struck, something remarkable happened. The energy didn't just stop at the shields. It bounced back, returning to its sources. Several Imperial destroyers rocked violently as their own weapons fire reflected back at them. Not enough to destroy them, but enough to damage their forward weapons arrays. "What is happening?" Dax demanded, watching this his fleet's attack was turned against them. Admiral Thorne's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. "They're reflecting our energy weapons back at us. I've never seen shield technology capable of that." Captain James watched as the Imperial fleet regrouped. "Now we show them what happens when they attack Earth. All ships, prepare for limited counterattack. Disabling strikes only." The human vessels moved with surprising speed, their engines glowing with a soft white light as they accelerated to velocities the Imperial ships couldn't match. They darted between the larger Imperial vessels, targeting weapons systems and engines with precise energy pulses. Within minutes, half the Imperial fleet was drifting, their main systems disabled but their life support intact. No ships were destroyed, but many were effectively removed from the battle. From his flagship, Admiral Thorne watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. These humans had neutralized half of an Imperial battle group without destroying a single vessel. It was a display of precision and restraint that he had never witnessed in centuries of service. "We must withdraw and regroup," he urged Commander Dax. "These are clearly not their best ships, yet they'd disabled half our fleet without taking damage." Dax's pride was wounded, but he wasn't foolish. "Order all functioning vessels to fall back to defensive positions." As the remaining Imperial ships retreated to a safer distance, the Defiance moved to the front of the human formation. A transmission came through from Captain James. "Imperial Fleet, this is Captain James. Your exercise is concluded. We came prepared for peace or war. Your choice, which happens next." Admiral Thorne stepped forward. "This is Admiral Thorne. We acknowledge the conclusion of the exercise. Your technological capabilities are impressive." "More than impressive," James replied. "What you witnessed today was a small fraction of Earth's defense capability. We deployed our second-tier vessels only. Our response was measured and proportionate to your unprovoked attack." Thorne glanced at Commander Dax, who stood in stunned silence. "We request a formal diplomatic meeting," Thorne said carefully, "to discuss Earth's relationship with the Empire." James nodded. "We accept. But understand this, Admiral. Earth will never be subjugated. We are prepared to join the galactic community as equals, not subjects." As the transmission ended, Thorne turned to Dax. "We must report this to the Emperor immediately. These humans, they're unlike any species we've encountered." Dax could only nod, his gaze fixed on the human vessels that had so easily defeated his battle group. "What are they?" he whispered. "The future of the galaxy," Thorne replied quietly. "Whether the Empire accepts it or not." News of the battle spread through the Empire like wildfire. On the Imperial capital world, Nexus Prime, the Emperor himself called an emergency session of the High Council. The massive chamber, designed to intimidate with its soaring ceilings and imposing architecture, was filled with nervous whispers. "Silence," commanded the Emperor, his voice echoing through the hall. Unlike most species in the Empire, he had only 2 eyes, but they glowed with an unnatural purple light, the result of advanced life extension technologies. The room fell quiet as a hologram appeared in the center, showing the disabled Imperial ships drifting in space after their encounter with the human fleet. For the first time in 5,000 years, the Emperor said slowly, "An Imperial battle group has been defeated in direct combat." One of the counselors, a being with translucent skin showing its glowing internal organs, spoke up. "Surely defeated is too strong a word, Your Eminence. Our reports indicate no Imperial ships were destroyed." "That makes it worse," replied the Emperor. "These humans could have destroyed our fleet but chose not to. Their restraint shows confidence, not mercy." Admiral Thorne's hologram appeared beside the battle footage. He had been summoned to report directly to the Council. "Admiral," the Emperor addressed him, "explain how a species that has had faster-than-light capability for merely 50 years has developed technology that surpasses our own." Thorne's 4 eyes blinked nervously. "Our scientists are still analyzing the data, Your Eminence, but we have developed a theory. It relates to the humans' homeworld." He activated a display showing Earth. "This planet has several unique characteristics. Its gravity is 1.3 times higher than the galactic average for inhabited worlds. Its radiation levels from its star are unusually high, and its ecosystem contains more predatory species than 87% of known inhabited planets." "What are you suggesting?" asked the counselor. "Simply put, humans evolved in conditions that would kill most species in the Empire," Thorne explained. "Their entire history has been one of adaptation to harsh conditions. They developed technology not for comfort or expansion, but for survival. In the Imperial Science Academy, the top minds of the Empire worked frantically to understand human technology. Marcus, now chief of the Human Research Division, supervised dozens of scientists analyzing the battle data. The energy readings from their shields make no sense," complained one researcher. "They seem to be using some form of quantum field manipulation that violates our understanding of physics." "And their propulsion systems," added another. "They're achieving velocities that should tear their ships apart, yet their structural integrity remains perfect." Marcus studied the holographic models of human ships floating above the central table. "We're missing something fundamental about their approach to technology. Their ships aren't just more advanced, they're different in concept." A junior researcher approached nervously. "Sir, I've been studying historical records of human communications we've intercepted over the decades. I found something interesting." He displayed a series of old human transmissions. Humans have a rich tradition of imagining the future through something they call science fiction. For centuries before they achieved spaceflight, they were already envisioning technologies like faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and artificial gravity. Marcus leaned forward, intrigued. "You're suggesting their technological development was guided by these imaginations?" "Yes, sir. While most species develop technology to solve immediate problems, humans seem to dream of technologies first, then work to make them real." Marcus slowly nodded. "A species that can imagine its future might not be bound by the same limitations as others." On Earth, President Gallo addressed the United Defense Command. The mood was cautiously optimistic following their victory over the Imperial battle group. The Resolution disappeared from orbit around Nexus Prime, leaving the Imperial observers in shock. One moment, the human flagship was there. The next, it had simply vanished. "What happened?" demanded the Emperor, watching from his palace observatory. "Did they activate some form of cloaking device?" Admiral Thorne shook his head, staring at the empty space where the human ship had been. "No, Your Eminence. This is something else entirely." Near Jupiter, an Imperial strike force of 15 warships bombarded the human colonies on Europa and Ganymede. The attack had been orchestrated by Commander Vex, a hardline Imperial officer who believed the only way to deal with humans was to crush them completely. "Continue the assault," Vex ordered from his command ship. "When these colonies are destroyed, the humans will understand their proper place in the Empire." Suddenly, alarms blared across his bridge. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear open directly ahead of his fleet. The Resolution emerged from what appeared to be a hole in reality. "Impossible," whispered Vex. "They couldn't have traveled from Nexus Prime so quickly." On the bridge of the Resolution, Captain James stood calmly. "Open a channel to the Imperial vessels." When the connection was established, he spoke with cold precision. "Imperial fleet, this is Captain James of Earth. You are attacking peaceful human settlements. Cease fire immediately and withdraw." Commander Vex's 4 eyes blinked in fury. "We do not recognize your authority, human. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. You will submit or be destroyed." James sighed. "Very well. You've made your choice." He turned to his tactical officer. "Activate the quantum field. Non-lethal protocols." The Resolution began to glow with a soft, pulsing white light. The light expanded outward in a perfect sphere, engulfing the entire Imperial fleet. As it touched each Imperial ship, their weapons fell silent and their engines shut down. "What's happening?" Vex demanded as his ship's systems failed one by one. Even life support was reduced to emergency power. On his command console, a message appeared in perfect Imperial script. "Your technology now serves us." Back at Nexus Prime, the Emperor and Admiral Thorne watched in astonishment as real-time footage showed the Resolution neutralizing the entire Imperial strike force without firing a single conventional weapon. "What are we seeing?" the Emperor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus, who had been called to the palace to observe, explained, "They appear to have developed a technology that can override our ship systems remotely. But more importantly, they somehow traveled from here to Jupiter almost instantly." "Phase shifting," Admiral Thorne said quietly. "What?" The Emperor turned to him. "During our intelligence gathering, we found references to something called phase shift technology in human scientific discussions. We dismissed it as theoretical. It appears we were wrong." The Emperor's eyes glowed more intensely. "A species that can move instantly across vast distances could appear anywhere in the Empire without warning." Thorne finished the thought. "No world would be safe if they chose to attack." Captain James addressed the crew of Commander Vex's flagship. The Imperial officers had been gathered in their main hall, where James's image appeared on their communication screen. "Your ships are disabled but undamaged," James explained. "Life support and basic functions will continue. In 6 hours, your systems will reboot and you'll regain control of your vessels." "This is an outrage," Vex shouted. "The Empire will respond with full force." James smiled slightly. "I'm counting on a response, Commander, but not the one you're thinking of." The screen switched to show the 3 human ships, the Resolution and 2 escort vessels, forming a triangular formation around the disabled Imperial fleet. The human ships began to glow, and then, impossibly, the entire formation, Imperial and human ships together, vanished. In orbit around Nexus Prime, space rippled again. The Resolution reappeared, surrounded by the 15 captured Imperial warships. Panic erupted across the Imperial capital as citizens looked up to see the disabled Imperial fleet hanging in their sky, escorted by the human vessels. In the Imperial palace, the Emperor watched in stunned silence. "They brought Commander Vex's entire fleet here," Admiral Thorne said, his voice filled with awe. "Across thousands of light years." Instantly, a communication request came through from the Resolution. The Emperor nodded, and Captain James appeared on the palace's main screen. "Your Eminence," James began formally, "we have apprehended the Imperial forces that attacked our colonies. They will be returned to your custody once our diplomatic discussions are complete." The Emperor stared at the human captain for a long moment. "I believe," he finally said, that those discussions should begin immediately. 3 days later, in the Grand Hall of the Imperial Palace, Captain James stood before the assembled Imperial Council. The massive chamber was also filled with representatives from dozens of species from across the Empire, all eager to see these humans who had defied imperial power. For 10,000 years, James began, the Empire has maintained order through technological superiority and military might. Today that era ends. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Not through war, James continued, but through partnership. Earth proposes a new galactic concordat, a restructuring of the Empire into a true federation of worlds, where all species have representation based on their merits, not their military power. The Emperor leaned forward on his ancient throne. And if we refuse? James gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing hundreds of human ships, the full Earth defense fleet, including the advanced Phantom-class vessels that could phase shift between dimensions. We could have come with this fleet, James said quietly. Instead, we came to talk. That is the choice humanity always prefers, cooperation over conflict. Admiral Thorne stepped forward. Your Eminence, I have witnessed human technology firsthand. They could have destroyed our forces, but they disabled them instead. They could have attacked our worlds, but they offered peace. I believe their proposal deserves consideration. The Emperor studied the human fleet display, then looked at James. What makes humans different? Why did you develop in decades what took other species centuries? James smiled. We come from a world that tried to kill us at every turn. High gravity, radiation, natural disasters, predators. Surviving Earth meant constant innovation. But more importantly, we learned to work together. Our greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our unity. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then, to the shock of the assembly, he stood from his throne and descended the steps, something he hadn't done in public for centuries. He approached Captain James and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting that his advisors had explained to him. Perhaps, said the Emperor, it is time for the galaxy to learn from Earth. 1 month later, representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to sign the Galactic Concordat. The Empire would be reformed into the Galactic Federation, with all species having an equal voice. On the observation deck of the Resolution, Captain James stood with Admiral Thorne, watching the ceremony on the screens. Your ships really are quite remarkable, Thorne said. I still don't understand how you developed such technology so quickly. James smiled. Perhaps the better question is why the Empire stopped innovating. Comfort breeds complacency, Admiral. Humanity never had that luxury. And now? Thorne asked, what will humans do with their power? James looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. Explore, learn, grow. The same things we've always done. But now, we won't do it alone. Below them, the Emperor signed the Concordat, and a new era of galactic history began, one where humanity's drive and innovation would help lead all species toward a future brighter than any single civilization could achieve on its own.